she forgot her husband after the accident. But the day their daughter disappeared, she remembered something terrifying. The Sterling family looked perfect from the outside. A billionaire husband, a beautiful wife, a happy daughter. But behind the mansion walls, secrets were buried so deeply that even memory itself had to be destroyed. And now, those secrets are waking up again. Welcome back to another emotional billionaire thriller filled with betrayal, shocking twists, hidden memories, and dangerous secrets. Stay and subscribe to Prime Tale until the end, because every episode changes everything you thought you knew. The Sterling mansion stood above the city like a palace built for people who never lost. Tall glass walls, endless lights, perfect silence. Everything about the family looked untouchable. But perfection is dangerous when it's hiding the truth. Elena Sterling stood at the kitchen counter early that morning staring at a cup of untouched coffee. Her reflection in the glass looked unfamiliar lately. Not because she changed, but because something inside her felt disconnected, like a memory she couldn't reach. Behind her, small footsteps approached. "Mommy." Elena turned softly. Ava stood there holding a drawing with a bright smile. Elena forced herself to smile back. "What did you draw?" "A family picture," Ava said proudly. Elena looked down. 3 people holding hands. But something about the drawing disturbed her, because she noticed Ava had drawn her father standing farther away, almost separated from them. "You made Daddy far away," Elena whispered. Ava shrugged innocently. "He's always far away now." That sentence stayed in Elena's mind long after Ava ran away, because children notice things adults ignored. And lately, Leo Sterling had become emotionally unreachable. Later that evening, the mansion hosted another billionaire charity dinner. Luxury cars lined the entrance. Famous guests filled the halls. Everyone admired Leo Sterling. Powerful, intelligent, untouchable. But Elena noticed something others didn't. Every time someone mentioned the accident, Leo's expression changed. Only slightly, but enough. "You've recovered beautifully," a woman told Elena. Elena smiled politely. "Thank you." But inside, she hated hearing those words. Recovered from what? She remembered the crash only in broken flashes. Rain, glass, pain, then darkness. And worst of all, the memory gaps were growing stranger. Sometimes she remembered conversations that never happened. Other times she forgot entire afternoons. That night after the guests left, Elena walked through the quiet mansion alone. The halls felt colder lately, like the house itself knew something she didn't. As she passed Leo's office, she heard voices. Low, urgent. The door was slightly open. "Elena's memory instability is increasing," a man said inside. Leo answered quietly. "She's starting to notice inconsistencies." The stranger responded. Then the protocol failed. Elena froze. "Protocol?" Leo's voice hardened. "No. The problem is emotional attachment." A pause. Then the stranger asked, "And the child?" Silence. A terrifying silence. Leo finally spoke. "She remembers too much." Elena stepped backward in shock. Her heart slammed against her chest. Who were they talking about? Her? Ava? Suddenly, the floor creaked beneath her foot. Inside the office, silence. Then footsteps. Elena quickly walked away before the door opened. But her hands were shaking violently now, because deep inside, something was terribly wrong. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. She kept replaying the conversation. Protocol. Memory instability. The child remembers too much. At 2:17 a.m., she finally got out of bed. Leo wasn't beside her. She quietly walked downstairs. The office lights were still on. This time, the door was closed. But through the glass reflection, she saw Leo staring at a hidden monitor, watching surveillance footage of Ava. Elena's breath stopped. Why would a father secretly monitor his own daughter? Then the screen changed. Security footage from the night of the accident. Elena moved closer slowly, and suddenly, a flash hit her mind. Rain pouring. Leo shouting. A second vehicle. Not an accident. A chase. Elena grabbed the wall as dizziness overwhelmed her. The memory vanished instantly. But one terrifying feeling remained. Someone caused the crash intentionally. Behind the office door, Leo suddenly looked toward the hallway, directly toward her. Their eyes met through the glass. And Elena realized something horrifying. He already knew she was there. Leo slowly closed the laptop, then calmly walked toward the door. No panic, no surprise. That calmness scared her more than anger ever could. The door opened. "Elena," he said softly, but his eyes were cold. "Why are you awake?" She tried to speak normally. "I couldn't sleep." Leo studied her face carefully, like he was checking whether she remembered something. Then he smiled, a controlled smile. "You should rest," he whispered. But as Elena walked away, one thought kept repeating inside her mind. What if the accident wasn't meant to erase her memory? What if it was meant to erase the truth? The next morning, the Sterling mansion felt quieter than usual. Too quiet, like the house itself was waiting for something terrible to happen. Elena stood in front of the bathroom mirror, staring at her own reflection again. But this time, she wasn't looking at herself. She was looking for signs. Signs that she was losing her mind. Because nothing made sense anymore. Her husband secretly monitoring their daughter. Strange conversations about protocols. Security footage of the accident. And worst of all, that feeling deep inside her chest that whispered, "You already knew the truth once before." A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. "Mommy." Ava stood at the door wearing her school uniform. But she looked nervous, almost afraid. Elena forced a gentle smile. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" Ava hesitated, then quietly asked, "Are you going to disappear again?" Elena's heart stopped. "What do you mean?" The little girl looked down. "Daddy said your memories make you sick." A cold wave moved through Elena's body. Why would Leo tell their daughter something like that? Before she could ask more questions, Leo appeared behind Ava. Perfect suit, perfect posture, perfect control. As always. "You're going to make Ava late for school," Leo said calmly. Elena noticed how quickly Ava moved toward her father, like he was safety. And Elena was uncertainty that hurt more than she expected. After they left, Elena returned to the bedroom slowly. But this time, she made a decision. No more confusion. No more pretending. If Leo was hiding something, she would find it herself. She waited until the security staff changed shifts, then quietly entered Leo's private office again. The room smelled like expensive leather and cold air. Everything was perfectly organized. Too organized. Like someone terrified of chaos. Elena carefully searched drawers, cabinets, hidden compartments. Nothing unusual, until she noticed something strange. One bookshelf had scratch marks near the edge. She pulled it gently. Click. A hidden compartment opened inside the wall. Elena's breathing slowed instantly. Inside were several black files labeled only with dates, and one silver flash drive. Her hands trembled as she opened the first file. Medical reports, brain scans, memory reconstruction analysis. Then she saw her own name. Subject, Elena Sterling. "No," she whispered. Page after page revealed horrifying details. Artificial memory suppression, behavior stabilization, cognitive interference. Elena stepped backward in disbelief. This wasn't treatment. This was experimentation. Then she reached the final page. Authorization signed by Leo Sterling. The room suddenly felt smaller, harder to breathe in. Her husband didn't just know about this. He approved it. A violent memory flash hit her instantly. Bright hospital lights. Doctors speaking urgently. Leo standing beside her bed, signing documents. And then, her own voice screaming, "Don't let them erase it." Elena gasped and dropped the papers. The flash disappeared. But now she knew one terrifying thing. She never agreed to forget. Suddenly, footsteps outside the office. Elena quickly grabbed the flash drive and hid behind the desk. The office door opened slowly. Leo entered. Not alone. The same mysterious man from the earlier conversation walked beside him. Older, sharp eyes, emotionless face. "She's becoming unstable faster than expected," the man said quietly. Leo loosened his tie in frustration. She's recovering fragments. The man's expression darkened. That should not be possible. Elena held her breath beneath the desk. Leo walked toward the hidden compartment. Elena's heart nearly stopped. But before he opened it, his phone rang. He answered immediately, and, within seconds, his expression changed completely. Fear. Real fear. What do you mean she's gone? Leo snapped. Silence. Then, no. Lock down the property now. Elena's stomach dropped. Gone? Who was gone? Leo ended the call and looked directly at the older man. They took Ava. Everything inside Elena shattered. The older man cursed quietly. That means they know. Leo's jaw tightened. No, it means the system has been compromised. Elena covered her mouth to stop herself from making a sound. System? Compromised? What was happening to her family? Then Leo said something that froze her blood completely. If Elena remembers, before we find Ava, everyone dies. Silence. Heavy, terrifying silence. The older man spoke carefully. Then maybe you should have told her the truth years ago. Leo looked away, and for the first time, he didn't look powerful. He looked guilty. After they rushed out of the office, Elena slowly emerged from beneath the desk. Her entire body trembled violently. Ava was gone, kidnapped, and somehow it was connected to her memory. Elena looked down at the silver flash drive still in her hand, then toward the hallway where Leo disappeared. One question echoed inside her mind louder than everything else. What truth was so dangerous that people were willing to destroy her entire family to keep it buried? And somewhere far from the mansion, inside a dark room illuminated only by a blinking camera light, Ava Sterling slowly opened her eyes. Not crying, not screaming, just staring quietly at the shadow standing in front of her. Then the shadow whispered, "Do you remember me?" Rain hammered against the windows of the Sterling mansion like the sky itself was warning them. Inside, panic spread through every hallway. Security guards rushed between rooms. Phones rang nonstop. Computer monitors flashed emergency alerts. But none of it mattered, because Ava Sterling was gone. Elena stood in the center of the chaos, barely able to breathe. Her daughter's backpack still rested near the staircase. One shoe remained by the front door. Tiny reminders that only hours ago, Ava had been safe. Now nobody knew where she was. Search every camera feed again. Leo barked. The staff immediately obeyed. But Elena noticed something strange. Leo wasn't acting like a desperate father. He was acting like a man trying to contain a disaster. That difference terrified her. "Elena," Leo said firmly, approaching her. "We need to stay calm." She stared at him in disbelief. "Calm," she whispered. "Our daughter is missing." Leo lowered his voice. "There are things happening you don't understand yet." That sentence ignited something inside her. "Then explain it to me." Silence. Leo looked around at the staff before speaking carefully. "Not here." Before Elena could argue, every screen in the mansion suddenly went black. The entire house froze. Then one screen flickered back on. A video appeared. Elena's knees nearly gave out instantly. Ava, their daughter, sat alone in a dimly lit room. No visible injuries, but terrified, trying not to cry. "Mommy," Ava whispered weakly toward the camera. Elena ran toward the screen instinctively. "Ava, baby." Then a distorted voice interrupted. "You have exactly 24 hours. A shadow moved behind Ava. Face hidden. Voice altered electronically. "Do not contact the police. If you fail." The figure leaned closer to Ava. "You lose her forever." The screen glitched. Then a message appeared. "Bring back Project Lucid." Every person in the room went silent. Even the security staff looked confused. But Leo looked horrified. Elena slowly turned toward him. "What is Project Lucid?" Leo didn't answer immediately. That hesitation told her everything. "Leo," her voice cracked. "What is it?" Before he could speak, another message appeared on the screen. This time directed specifically at Elena. "Ask your husband what really happened the night you crashed." Elena's breathing became uneven. The room suddenly felt too small, too hot. Fragments hit her again instantly. Rain, screaming tires, a black SUV following them, Leo shouting at someone on the phone. Then, a gunshot. Elena gasped and grabbed her head. The memory disappeared immediately. But now she knew something terrifying. There had been another vehicle on the road that night. The accident wasn't random. Leo noticed her expression immediately. "You're remembering," he whispered. Not relief. Fear. Elena stepped backward. "What did you do to me?" Before Leo could respond, the power suddenly shut off. The mansion plunged into darkness. Women screamed. Security guards drew weapons. Emergency red lights flickered on seconds later. And then, a voice echoed through the house speakers. She remembers faster than expected. Elena froze. That voice. She recognized it. The older man from Leo's office. "Find Elena immediately," the voice continued. "She cannot recover the full sequence." Leo's expression darkened instantly. "They hacked the internal system," he muttered. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed upstairs. Everyone turned. Ava's bedroom window shattered inward. Rain pouring violently through the opening, and painted across the wall in black letters. She was never the real target. Elena stared at the message in horror. Not the real target? Then who was? Leo grabbed her arm tightly. "We have to leave now." Elena pulled away instantly. "No." Leo looked stunned. "You lied to me," she whispered. "For years." "Elena, what is Project Lucid?" Silence filled the room again. Finally, Leo exhaled heavily, like a man cornered by truths he could no longer bury. "It's a memory control program." The words hit Elena like ice water. Leo continued quietly. "It was designed to suppress traumatic memories." But eventually, he looked away briefly. It became something much bigger. Elena's voice trembled. "You used it on me." Leo didn't answer. He didn't need to. Tears filled Elena's eyes instantly. Then Leo said something worse. "You volunteered." "What?" "You found out what certain people were planning. And you agreed to suppress the memory to protect Ava." Elena shook her head violently. "No." But deep inside, something about his words felt true. Another flash struck her suddenly. A laboratory. Doctors. Her own voice crying. "If they know what's inside the system, they'll kill her." Elena staggered backward. The memory vanished again. Leo caught her before she fell. "Listen to me carefully," he said urgently. "If you remember everything before we find Ava, they will activate the second protocol." Elena stared at him, terrified. "What second protocol?" But before Leo could answer, a new video notification appeared on his phone. He opened it slowly, and his face went completely pale. Elena grabbed the phone. Her blood turned cold instantly. The video showed Ava again. But this time, she wasn't alone. Standing beside her was a woman who looked exactly like Elena. The room fell silent. Not ordinary silence. The kind of silence that happens when reality suddenly stops making sense. Elena stared at the phone screen, unable to breathe. The woman standing beside Ava looked exactly like her. Same eyes, same face, same voice, even the same scar near her wrist. "No," Elena whispered. "That's impossible." The woman on the screen leaned closer to Ava protectively, then slowly looked into the camera, directly at Elena, and smiled. A cold wave moved through Elena's entire body. Because it wasn't just resemblance. It felt familiar. Too familiar. Like looking into a mirror that remembered things she didn't. Leo immediately grabbed the phone, his expression darker than she had ever seen before. "How did they activate her?" he muttered. Elena looked at him sharply. "Activate who?" Leo stayed silent, and that silence terrified her more than the video itself. "Leo," she shouted. "Who is she?" Finally he answered. "The second Elena." The words sounded insane, but something deep inside Elena already feared they were true. Rain continued pounding outside as emergency lights flashed throughout the mansion. The entire house now felt like a prison built from secrets. Leo walked toward the security monitors quickly. "She shouldn't exist anymore," he whispered. Elena followed him. "What do you mean exist?" Leo stared at the frozen video frame, years of control finally cracking across his face. Project Lucid was never just memory suppression, he admitted quietly. It evolved. Elena's heartbeat slowed. Not from calm, from fear. What did it evolve into? Leo hesitated, then said the one thing she never expected. Memory replication. Elena felt the floor disappear beneath her. No. Leo nodded slowly. The system eventually learned how to duplicate emotional identity patterns. Elena stared at him in disbelief. "You copied human minds?" "We copied consciousness fragments," Leo corrected weakly. But even he sounded disgusted by the words. Suddenly, another violent memory slammed into Elena. A laboratory, bright white lights, scientists arguing, and then a woman, her own face staring back at her through glass. Elena screamed and dropped to her knees instantly. The memory vanished again, but now terror replaced confusion. She had seen the other woman before the crash. Leo rushed toward her. "Elena." She pulled away violently. "You created another version of me." Leo's voice broke for the first time. It wasn't supposed to become human. The room went still. Then another notification appeared. Incoming live video. The mysterious woman appeared again beside Ava. But this time, she spoke directly to Elena. "You finally remember me," she said softly. Elena's blood ran cold. Even her voice sounded identical. "Who are you?" Elena whispered. The woman tilted her head slightly. "I'm what they kept after they erased you." Ava looked terrified beside her, but strangely, not afraid of the woman herself, almost comfortable near her. Leo immediately muted the screen, but Elena grabbed his arm. "No." The second Elena smiled faintly through the monitor. "You deserve the truth." Leo's expression hardened instantly. "She's manipulating you." The woman laughed softly. "No, Leo. You manipulated everyone." Then her face suddenly changed. Not physically, emotionally. Cold, hurt, angry. "You told them I was unstable. You abandoned me inside the system." Elena stared at the screen in horror. This wasn't a clone. This was a person. The second Elena continued. "You erased her memories." She pointed toward the real Elena. "But you couldn't erase me." Leo shut the monitor off instantly. Darkness filled the room again. Elena slowly turned toward him, her eyes filled with tears. "What did you do?" Leo looked exhausted now. Not powerful, not untouchable, broken. The countdown continued flashing across every screen in the mansion. 23 hours, 12 minutes, and 9 seconds. 23 hours, 12 minutes, and 8 seconds. 23 hours, 12 minutes, and 7 seconds. Every second felt heavier than the last, like time itself was closing in around them. Elena stared at the monitors, unable to move. Only one consciousness survives. Leo's words kept echoing inside her mind like a nightmare that refused to end. "You're lying," she whispered. "There's no way this is real." Leo looked exhausted. "I wish I was." The mansion lights flickered again. Emergency generators humming beneath the floors. Outside, storm clouds covered the city completely. Everything felt darker now, like the world itself had changed. Elena slowly turned toward Leo. "You're taking me there." Leo looked at her carefully. "Elena, if we go back to the facility, there's no guarantee you come back the same." She laughed bitterly. "The same?" Tears filled her eyes. "You already took that away from me years ago." Leo had no response, because deep down, he knew she was right. Minutes later, a black armored vehicle sped through the rain-covered streets toward the abandoned industrial district, where Project Lucid had been hidden for years. Neither of them spoke during the drive, but Elena noticed something strange. Leo kept checking the rearview mirror, like he expected someone to follow them. Finally, she broke the silence. "Tell me the truth." Leo tightened his grip on the steering wheel. "You don't remember enough yet." "Then help me remember." A long silence filled the vehicle. Then Leo finally spoke. Project Lucid started as trauma recovery technology. Governments funded it. Private corporations expanded it. It was supposed to help people survive unbearable memories. Elena listened quietly, rain sliding across the windows like tears. But once they realized memories could be edited, Leo's voice darkened. Everything changed. Elena already knew the answer before he said it. People wanted control. Leo nodded once. Memories decide identity. If you control memory, you control people. Elena's stomach turned. Then another memory flash hit her violently. A conference room. Executives arguing. A document labeled Cognitive Restructure Program. And her own voice shouting, "This can destroy human identity." The flash disappeared instantly. But now she understood why she became dangerous. She tried to stop them. "You tried to expose the project," Leo admitted quietly. "When they realized you knew too much." He looked away. "They ordered your elimination." Elena stared at him in horror. "And you helped them?" "No." Leo's voice cracked sharply. "I tried to save you." Silence. Heavy, painful silence. "You authorized the procedure instead." Elena looked forward again, unable to process the betrayal. Then she asked the question that terrified her most. The second Elena. What exactly is she? Leo's jaw tightened. A consciousness duplicate. Elena closed her eyes. She carries your preserved memory structure, your emotional patterns, fragments of your suppressed identity. A pause. Then Leo whispered, "She remembers everything you forgot." The vehicle suddenly slowed. Ahead of them, hidden through the rain, Project Lucid emerged from the darkness. The facility looked abandoned from the outside. Concrete walls, broken fences, dead floodlights. But Elena immediately felt it. This place wasn't dead. It was waiting. As they stepped out of the vehicle, Elena felt an overwhelming sense of familiarity. Not ordinary memory, something deeper. Like part of her never left this place. The main doors opened automatically. No security code required. "They're expecting us," Leo muttered. Inside, the corridors glowed with dim emergency lights. The silence was unbearable. Then, a child's laughter echoed faintly through the hallway. Elena froze instantly. "Ava." She ran toward the sound. Leo followed immediately. The hallway opened into a massive observation chamber filled with glass walls and old monitoring equipment. And standing at the center of the room was the second Elena. Ava stood beside her, holding her hand calmly. Not afraid, not crying. The second Elena looked up slowly and smiled. "You came back," she said softly. Elena stared at her own face in disbelief. Every movement identical, every expression familiar. But something about the second Elena felt different, colder, sharper, like pain had transformed her into something stronger. "You took my life," the second Elena whispered. Elena shook her head slowly. "I didn't know you existed." "But he did." The second Elena looked toward Leo. Instant hatred filled the room instantly. Leo stepped forward carefully. "You were never supposed to gain independent consciousness." The second Elena laughed softly. "That's what happens when you try to copy a human soul." Ava looked between both women nervously. "Please stop fighting." Elena immediately moved toward her daughter. But alarms suddenly exploded throughout the facility. Red warning lights flashing violently. "System merge initiated." The words echoed through the chamber speakers. Leo's face drained of color instantly. "No." The second Elena slowly smiled. "It's too late." Elena looked around in panic. "What's happening?" The second Elena stepped closer. "The system is completing the synchronization." Then she touched her own chest softly. "And when it's over." She looked directly into Elena's eyes. "Only one of us will remain." The red emergency lights turned the entire chamber into a nightmare. Every wall pulsed with warning signals. Every monitor flashed the same terrifying message. "System merge initiated." Elena grabbed Ava protectively. "What does that mean?" she shouted. But before anyone answered, a violent wave of pain exploded through her mind. Elena screamed instantly and collapsed to her knees. Memories flooded her consciousness faster than she could process them. Not fragments anymore. Entire lifetimes. Laboratories. Experiments. Arguments. Fear. And then, the second Elena screaming behind glass walls while security teams restrained her. Elena gasped violently. The pain vanished for a second. But now she remembered something horrifying. The second Elena hadn't been created accidentally. She had been imprisoned intentionally. You locked her inside the system, Elena whispered toward Leo. Leo looked devastated. She became unstable. The second Elena laughed bitterly. Unstable. Her eyes filled with rage. You copied a human consciousness and abandoned it in digital isolation for years. The chamber lights flickered violently. The facility itself almost seemed alive now. Reacting. Listening. Ava suddenly covered her ears. Make it stop. Instantly both Elenas turned toward her. At the same time. With the same expression. And that terrified Leo more than anything. Because, for a brief moment, he couldn't tell them apart anymore. Another memory surge hit Elena violently. She remembered signing the Lucid authorization forms. But now she understood the full truth. She hadn't agreed to erase herself. She agreed to split herself. To protect information too dangerous for one mind to carry. The second Elena whispered softly. Now you finally understand. Elena slowly stood again. You carry the memories I buried. And you carry the emotions I lost, the second Elena replied. Silence. Heavy. Emotional. Terrifying. Ava looked between both women with tears in her eyes. Which one is my real mom? Nobody answered immediately. Because nobody knew anymore. Leo finally stepped forward. Elena is your mother. The second Elena smiled coldly. Which Elena? That question shattered the room. Leo froze completely. Because he realized something horrifying. He genuinely didn't know anymore. The synchronization alarms intensified. Every monitor now displayed neural patterns rapidly merging together. The second Elena looked toward the screens calmly. The system is reconnecting the fractured identity. Elena felt another sharp pain inside her head. Then suddenly, she saw memories that didn't belong to her. Years trapped inside digital simulations. Watching Ava grow through surveillance feeds. Listening to Leo speak about her like an experiment. Feeling abandoned. Forgotten. Alone. Tears filled Elena's eyes instantly. Not from fear. From guilt. She suffered, Elena whispered. The second Elena looked at her silently. And for the first time, the anger faded slightly. You left me there. Elena shook her head emotionally. I didn't know. But part of you did. The chamber trembled suddenly. A deep mechanical sound echoed beneath the facility. Leo immediately looked toward the control room. No. What is it? Elena asked. Leo's face went pale. The core consciousness engine is activating. The second Elena smiled faintly. Good. Leo turned toward her sharply. You don't understand what happens if the engine fully merges your neural structures. The second Elena slowly looked at him. Yes, I do. Silence. Then she whispered. One of us becomes complete. Ava burst into tears instantly. No. I want both of you. That innocent cry broke something inside both Elenas simultaneously. Because both of them loved her. Equally. Completely. And suddenly, Elena realized something deeper. The second Elena wasn't pretending to love Ava. She truly did. Because she carried the same maternal emotions. The same memories. The same soul fragments. Which meant destroying her. Would mean destroying part of herself. Leo stepped toward the emergency shutdown panel quickly. We stop the merge now. But the second Elena's expression darkened immediately. You don't get to control us anymore. Suddenly, every screen inside the chamber activated at once. Old Project Lucid recordings began playing automatically. Scientists speaking. Experiments failing. Subjects screaming. And then, a final classified recording appeared. Date, 3 years earlier. Elena stared at the screen in horror. Because the woman inside the recording was not her. It was the second Elena, standing freely beside Leo. Alive, human, real. And then the recording audio played. Original Elena memory transfer successful. The room went completely silent. Elena slowly turned toward Leo, terrified. What does original Elena mean? Leo couldn't speak, because the truth was finally unavoidable. The second Elena looked directly into Elena's eyes and whispered softly, "You were never the original." The words shattered reality itself. You were never the original. Elena stood frozen. The room around her suddenly felt unreal, like the floor beneath her feet no longer existed. "No," she whispered weakly. "That's impossible." But deep inside, something terrifying had already begun to make sense. The recording continued playing on the monitor. 3 years earlier, a laboratory deep beneath Project Lucid. The second Elena stood beside Leo calmly, alive, human, smiling softly, not trapped, not artificial, real. Scientists surrounded them while neural scanners flashed across giant screens. Then the recording audio continued. Identity duplication unstable. Memory separation at 72%. Original consciousness degrading. Elena's breathing became uneven. Original consciousness? The second Elena slowly walked toward the screen, her eyes never leaving it. "I volunteered first," she said quietly. Elena looked at her in confusion. "What are you talking about?" The second Elena turned slowly, not angry anymore, just tired. "I was Elena Sterling." Silence. Absolute silence. Ava stepped backward in fear. Leo closed his eyes painfully, because he knew the truth could no longer be hidden. "No," Elena whispered again. "You're lying." The second Elena shook her head slowly. "When the project became unstable, my neural condition started collapsing." She touched her temple gently. "The memory strain was killing me." Fragments suddenly exploded inside Elena's mind again. Hospitals, scans, doctors warning about cognitive deterioration. And then, a desperate decision. The second Elena continued. So they created a stabilized consciousness duplicate. Elena's blood ran cold. A second version. A cleaner version. One capable of surviving the memory burden. Elena staggered backward. "That's not possible." Leo finally spoke, his voice broken. "It worked better than anyone expected." The second Elena looked toward him bitterly. Too well. Another violent flash hit Elena. She remembered waking inside a white room, confused, disoriented. Leo holding her hand gently, calling her Elena, teaching her memories, building her identity, not restoring it, constructing it. Elena gasped violently. "Oh my God!" The second Elena nodded slowly. "You thought you lost memories in the accident, but most of your life was transferred into you." Ava began crying harder. "Stop saying that." Elena immediately turned toward her daughter instinctively. And in that moment, the second Elena smiled sadly, because that reaction proved something important. Both of them were real. The synchronization alarms intensified again. Neural activity climbing rapidly. System convergence at 82%. Leo rushed toward the control panel desperately. If the merge completes, both consciousness structures could collapse. The second Elena looked calm, almost peaceful now. "Or maybe," she whispered, "we finally become whole again." Elena stared at her own face across the chamber, for the first time not seeing an enemy, but seeing pain, loneliness, loss, years trapped inside systems. Watching another version of herself live her life, raise her daughter, love her husband. No wonder she became angry. "You let her suffer," Elena whispered toward Leo. Leo's eyes filled with guilt. "I thought the duplicate was unstable." The second Elena laughed bitterly. "You called me unstable because I remembered too much." Another hidden recording suddenly activated automatically on the monitors. This one showed Leo arguing violently with Project Lucid executives years earlier. "She's still conscious." Leo shouted in the footage. "We can't just delete her." An executive responded coldly. She is no longer legally human. Ava covered her mouth in horror. The recording continued. She's a residual identity construct, another scientist said. She belongs to the system now. Elena felt sick. The second Elena looked away quietly. That was the day I realized I was already dead to them. Leo looked shattered watching the footage. I tried to protect you. No, the second Elena whispered. You protected the project. Silence consumed the room again. Because deep down, everyone knew that was true. Suddenly, the facility shook violently. Power surges exploded across the chamber. Glass cracked. Warning sirens screamed. System convergence at 91%. The neural merge was accelerating uncontrollably now. Elena suddenly felt memories overlapping completely. Not just information, emotions. She felt the second Elena's loneliness, her fear, her rage, her love for Ava, and simultaneously, the second Elena felt Elena's life outside the system. The birthdays, the hugs, the ordinary moments she never got to experience. Tears rolled down both their faces at the same time. Ava whispered softly, "You're both my mom." That innocent sentence broke the remaining wall between them. The second Elena looked toward Ava with trembling eyes, then toward Elena, and quietly said, "I don't want to disappear." Elena's heart shattered instantly, because, for the first time, she understood the truth completely. The second Elena wasn't trying to steal her life. She wanted her own. But the system would never allow both consciousness structures to survive permanently. One identity would eventually dominate the neural architecture. Unless Elena suddenly remembered something buried deeper than all the other memories. A hidden failsafe. One final protocol she designed herself. Her eyes widened. There's another way. Leo turned instantly. What? Elena looked toward the core chamber, breathing hard. The consciousness doesn't need to merge. She looked directly at the second Elena. It needs to separate completely. The second Elena stared at her silently, hope and fear mixing together. But Leo's face went pale instantly. "Elena," he whispered, "that procedure was never tested." Elena looked at him calmly now, then toward the woman carrying the other half of her existence, and whispered, "Then we test it now." The entire facility trembled violently. Lights exploded overhead. Emergency sirens screamed through every corridor. And across every monitor, the same terrifying message flashed repeatedly. System convergence at 96%. Time was running out. Elena stood facing the second Elena in the center of a chamber. Two identical women. Two fractured lives. Two versions of the same soul. And only minutes left before the system permanently fused them together. Ava clung tightly to Leo's arm, crying softly, "Please don't let them disappear." Leo stared helplessly at both women. For years, he believed control could fix everything. Now he realized control destroyed everything instead. Elena turned toward the core chamber doors. The separation protocol is inside the neural engine. Leo immediately shook his head. No. Elena looked at him calmly. The engine was abandoned after the collapse for a reason. If the synchronization destabilizes during separation, he stopped himself. The second Elena finished the sentence quietly. "We both die." Silence. Ava cried harder instantly. No. Elena knelt beside her daughter gently, her voice soft despite the chaos around them. "Listen to me." Ava looked at her with terrified eyes. "No matter what happens." Elena glanced toward the second Elena. "You were loved by both of us." The second Elena's eyes filled with tears instantly, because she had waited years to hear those words. Suddenly, a massive shockwave rattled the chamber. Glass shattered across the floor. Monitors flickered violently. System convergence at 98%. The second Elena looked toward the core room. "It's starting." The neural synchronization had already begun pulling their consciousness patterns together. Elena could feel it now. Thoughts blending, memories crossing, emotions overlapping completely. She suddenly remembered moments she never lived. Watching Ava's birthdays through hidden cameras. listening to Leo speak about her like a classified secret, screaming inside digital darkness for years. And simultaneously, the second Elena felt warmth she never experienced, holding Ava for the first time, sleeping beside Leo during peaceful nights, feeling sunlight, rain, life. Tears rolled down both their faces simultaneously. "We're already merging," the second Elena whispered. Elena nodded slowly. "I know." Then she reached out her hand, for the first time willingly. The second Elena stared at it silently, then slowly took it. The moment their hands touched, every monitor inside the facility exploded into white light. A shared memory flooded both their minds instantly. Not laboratories, not experiments, not pain. A beach. Years ago. Before Project Lucid. Before the fear. Before the lies. The original Elena laughing beside Leo while holding baby Ava in her arms. Completely happy. Completely human. And suddenly both women understood the truth. Neither of them was fake. Neither of them was incomplete. They were both fragments of one broken life trying desperately to survive. Leo watched them in silence, finally understanding something too. He spent years trying to preserve Elena, but in doing so, he destroyed her identity, split her existence, turned love into imprisonment. The guilt crushed him completely. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Both Elenas looked toward him together. Same eyes, same pain. The second Elena smiled sadly. "You loved us wrong." That sentence shattered Leo more than anything else ever could. System convergence at 99%. The chamber doors suddenly opened automatically. Inside, the neural core engine glowed with blinding white energy. Thousands of memory streams flowing through glass-like circuitry. The heart of Project Lucid itself. Elena slowly stood. "This is where it ends." Leo grabbed her wrist instantly. "If the separation fails." "It won't," the second Elena interrupted quietly. Everyone turned toward her. For the first time since awakening, she looked peaceful, because she finally understood something important. She didn't need to steal Elena's life to become real. She already was. The second Elena walked slowly toward the neural engine. "Elena," Leo whispered carefully. But he didn't know which one he meant anymore. The second Elena looked back at Ava one final time, tears falling silently. "Thank you," she whispered softly, "for loving both of us." Then she entered the core chamber. "No," Ava cried instantly. Elena tried to follow her, but the chamber doors suddenly sealed shut. Lockdown initiated. The second Elena stood alone inside the glowing neural engine room. Calm. Still. Elena pounded against the glass desperately. "What are you doing?" The second Elena smiled softly through the barrier. "One consciousness has to stabilize the separation manually." Memory streams exploded across the chamber like storms made of light. Leo grabbed Ava protectively as alarms deafened the entire building. Separation protocol activated. Elena screamed as thousands of memories ripped through her mind at once. Not pain. Release. The second Elena stood inside the light, smiling faintly now. No fear left. Only peace.